Now, faced with another defeat in Congress, the Republicans are now starting to turn on each other. Oh, that's interesting. And one of my favorite things to watch is Republican on Republican crime. I love it. Now, writing for The Atlantic, Molly Ball points out how bad it's starting to get inside of the Republican Party with some of this infighting. She writes, on Monday, the Republicans' tortured healthcare effort hit a seemingly permanent snag. But that was only the latest blow. After half a year of consolidated GOP control, not a major piece of legislation has been enacted. With other priorities similarly stalled, legislators' frustration is mounting. Now, one member of Congress, part of the GOP, who was unnamed, told Ball, quote, "We're in charge, right? We have the House, the Senate, and the White House. Everyone's still committed to making progress." That's my air quotes, not him, on big issues. But the more time goes by, the more difficult that becomes, and then the blame game starts. Ooh, let's play the blame game, shall we? So who's blaming who? Well, she writes that the House is first blaming the Senate. At a press conference last week, she uses this as an example, Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader, waved a chart of 226 House-passed bills that the Senate has not taken up. Quote, "We will continue to do our work here, and we hope the Senate continues to do their work as we move forward." Now, that's basically code of get up off your ass and do something. We passed all these bills. We expect you to actually bring them to the floor. Now, there are reasons, of course, that they're not bringing them to the floor, mainly because in a lot of things, well, the Republicans do not, like, they have a small majority, but they don't have a super majority. So that means that the Democrats would likely filibuster, which means you would have to have 60 votes in order to enact legislation, in order to have it passed. Well, a lot of these bills will not get Democratic support. They will likely be blocked. So Mitch McConnell, Senate leaders, probably like, what's the point? If I'm going to bring it up, and then it's going to get filibustered, and that's it. Well, what am I supposed to do with that? I guess he could get rid of the filibuster, go in the nuclear option, but he hasn't gone there yet. Now, that's not like they haven't talked about that, though. They have. That's been a conversation. But let's get to more blame, right? So, again, you have the House blaming the Senate, and now you have some of the younger members of the GOP blaming some of the older members of the GOP. Another example is a freshman congressman from Michigan, Paul Mitchell. Now, he got a dozen of his fellow new members of Congress to co-sign an op-ed that urges the Senate to, quote, get moving, implicitly calling out their senior colleagues for forgetting what they were sent to Washington to do. They write, "Failure to do so is a failure to follow the will of our voters," the freshmen wrote in their article published on Tuesday. So, hey man, it's those old guys. It's their fault. We want to go. We just got freshly elected. We want to get elected again. But it's those old farts up there. The, people that have safe seats and the career politicians. Well, that plays really well in an election campaign, by the way. Like, oh, I'm not a career politician like that guy. But anyway, more blame. Now, the Senate blames the House. Now, an example they give is a bill for Russian sanctions, right? Now, it was passed by the upper chamber with 98 votes over a month ago. However, it has yet to come to the floor on the House. Well, that's interesting. Now, Senator Bob Corker, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he said, "Hey, man, why didn't you pass that bill? I mean, we passed that. We sent that to you. What are you doing?" He said they were, quote, dilly-dallying and were a ridiculous waste of time. Interesting. Now, look, I wonder why the House isn't taking that up. Now, Republicans are actually offering a couple of explanations. Number one, the Democrats in the House are going to block it. You realize there's no filibuster in the House, right? And that Republicans have had a majority since 2010. So, yeah, if they wanted to move something through the House, they could do so. But no. We're going to blame the Democrats. How dare those people in the minority block the stuff that we want? Even though we blocked everything they wanted. And even though this piece of legislation passed the Senate, 98. Okay, 98 senators voted for this. You think the Democrats aren't going to vote for sanctions on Russia? What have the Democrats been talking about almost consistently? Russia, 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 Russia. Oh, no, the Democrats aren't going to pass that Russia sanctions bill. That's why it hasn't moved. Really? Really? Is there anybody that's stupid enough to actually be buying that argument? No. No. Now, House leaders do say, they also add in, well, it's not only the Democrats' fault, it's procedural issues as well. So, I mean, you know, I can't take this up. Procedural issues, sad. Well, there's another reason, and it's even more sad. Some members, however, suspect that House leadership is now purposely, quote, slow-walking the bill to avoid embarrassing the president. Oh, how sad would that be? Ball writes that, quote, if sent to the president's desk, the bill would amount to a rebuke of the president's Russia policy, one that he would surely be loath to sign. But given the Russia scandal swirling around Trump, a veto would be explosive. And if the GOP Congress overrode such a veto, the president's clout would be severely diminished. So he's not winning in this situation. In fact, there's a lot of losing going on. Loser, baby, sad. Now, and it's not only inter-chamber fighting that's going on, it's actually intra-chamber as well. Another example is Senate. Now, meanwhile, many senators are annoyed with Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for the rushed secretive process that produced the health care bill and for threatening to cancel the August vacation for potentially fruitless legislative session. And everyone is annoyed with the House Freedom Caucus, which has also demanded that lawmakers spend the next month in D.C. So these people, a lot of them are like, how dare you mess with my fucking vacation? Now, here's the thing, like, Congress is always going on vacation. They're always going on trips. I understand that sometimes they got to go back to their districts to campaign for the next election. I understand that. But it seems like they're always getting time off. They get over half the year off. I mean, come on, man. It's not like they're going, like the original, intention for that, to have these legislative breaks, is that we didn't have career politicians. They would go home and they would work their normal jobs and they would do a little campaigning. Now, they're not working their normal jobs. No, they're going to swanky fundraisers and they're kissing ass to, CEOs in order for paychecks. They're not out there working a 9-to-5 job. Paul Ryan's not out there working the iron, okay? So why do they need so many breaks off? I mean, if we're going to have career politicians, then they should be in Congress all the fucking time. They shouldn't get so many breaks. Like, imagine if I tried to take that many breaks. Be off half the year. Nobody would watch the show. Imagine if I were in a normal job. If I were working a 9-to-5. Hey, boss, gotta go. I'm taking my vacation. You just took a vacation 2 months ago. Yeah, well, I'm taking another one, and this one's going to be 3 months. Come on, man. No. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. But nonetheless, these privileged assholes are so angry at each other. Like, how dare you keep me here, Mitch McConnell? I got asses to kiss. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta go beg for donations or hang out on the beach. Anyway, but here was something very interesting that was written in this article. Now, Ball wrote that this really isn't all that unusual. Turns out this infighting, to a degree, does exist. And, of course, she wrote in an oft-repeated fable, a new Republican member of Congress, eager to go after the enemy Democrats, is corrected by an old bull. The Democrats are the opposition, he says. The Senate is the enemy. Oh, that's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Now, that same member of Congress who talked to Molly Ball, he said that, or they said, I should say, we're a big tent party, so of course there are divisions. But the only thing that could unite the clans is consistent and engaged leadership from the president. And it's fair to say we've gotten mixed signals. So that right there, they're pointing out the problem like, yeah, of course we have infighting. That's normal. But we're supposed to have a leader. We're supposed to have the leader of the party come in and whip our asses into shape. Well, that would be Donald Trump. He's the leader of the Republican Party. He is the President of the United States. He's supposed to be leading on these issues. Now, what is he doing? Well, he's not there. In fact, you could say he's leading from behind. He's spending more time golfing or hanging out at Mar-a-Lago or watching Fox News. And of course, there might be a reason that Donald Trump isn't involved. I mean, we've talked about this before in some of the political pieces where they talked to people inside the White House that said, we actually don't want Donald Trump here. Mitch McConnell wants to have he keeps an arm's length between him, between Donald Trump and any piece of legislation they're working on, especially the latest Trumpcare repeal that fell on its face. So they essentially don't want him, getting involved because he's going to screw it up. So all the Republicans, they're like, man, Donald Trump, or at least the Republican leadership says Donald Trump is such an imbecile. If we get him involved in the legislative process, and if we had him lead on this issue, we don't know where he's going to go. And that could be embarrassing. We've seen what already what happens when Donald Trump takes the lead on something, and it's never good. Never good. That's because we know from those same Politico pieces that Trump knows almost nothing about policy. Nothing. And I think maybe for that reason, they keep him away on purpose. I mean, but you also have the fact that his policy briefings have been incredibly shortened. They are now tweet length. Now, before, he got a page with, some text, but mostly killer graphics and pictures. Killer graphics and pictures, and then a little bit of text, and that was his briefing for the day. One page. Amazing, right? It looks like that, more than one page, obviously too much for him. One page with mostly graphics and pictures, also too much for him. Now it had to be boiled down to tweet length. Sad. And not only that, but of course anything else he reads, his staffers make sure to slip in his name into different spots, just randomly, so that he stays interested. Oh, Donald Trump. Oh, what's this about? Oh, this is about tax policy. I'm really, really bored. Oh, Donald Trump. Here it goes again. This guy's an idiot. He is not a smart person. Trust me. Believe me. Not a smart person, and definitely not a leader. And look, if you don't have leadership, you're going to have problems uniting the different factions within the Republican Party. It would be the same thing with the Democratic Party. If you have a weak leader, then you're not going to be able to get things done. You're going to be fractured. There's going to be a lot of infighting, and you're not going to have that ability to move legislation through. So, and that's exactly what we're seeing right here now. Now, and it's not like these White House or Republican or House staffers, it's not like they don't know this. In fact, one more quote here. A House Republican staffer described the fractious mood on Capitol Hill as, quote, Republican on Republican violence. Ooh. As for why lawmakers don't train their ire on the real root of the problem, the staffer shrugged. Quote, maybe it's just easier to attack people without 13 million Twitter followers. He knows where the problem is, and it starts at the top. Sad. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.